Was that good for you?
What's up, lore masters? In the last video, we analyzed the worst scene that was ever devised in all of Trekdom. It was, of course, found in First Contact. Now, we get to analyze the adventures of Picard and Lily. With the climax of Act 1 in the 3-act structure showing an utter defeat for Starfleet, our hero, Captain Picard, has to regroup and get to the second obstacle, already getting past the first one with Lily pointing a phaser at him. We'll be hitting that midpoint twist very shortly. Let's get into it.
How many planets are in this Federation?
Over 150. Spread across 8,000 light years.
Must not get home much.
Actually, I tend to think of this ship as home. But if it's Earth you're talking about, I try to get back whenever I can.
Good. They haven't broken the encryption codes yet.
In film writing, it is absolutely vital that you make every piece of dialogue count. Every word uttered moves the movie forward in one way or the other. I bring this up because some might wonder why they have a discussion about Starfleet in the Federation. Most of the audience members know it. Though, to be fair, while educating Lily, Picard is also educating those few scant people who came to watch the movie who may not have seen Trek or know what it's about. It also has a way of showing who Picard is and what he believes. Picard doesn't necessarily consider Earth to be his place of relaxation, where he goes to. No, the ship is his home, and his home is under attack. And honestly, it's the bulk of what he is. He is his work. He is Starfleet. I'll discuss this more later when he finally decides to take all of his anger out on models that didn't do anything to him. So we'll keep moving on. Something interesting as well is that the camera is definitely being held here. It's not on a dolly. If I had to guess, this may have allowed the crew to get better shots and move around the set better. It does give an off-putting feel to the entire scene, the way it moves back and forth, but I don't think that this was done on purpose.
Who? Those bionic zombies you told me about? The
Borg.
Borg. Sounds Swedish.
I would have said Norwegian or communist myself.
How big is this ship?
There are 24 decks.
It's pretty bad, sir. It looks like the control deck's 26 up to 11.
There are 24 decks. Almost 700 meters long.
It took me 6 months to scrounge up enough titanium just to build a 4-meter cockpit. How much did this thing cost?
Here we go.
The economics of the future are somewhat different. You see, money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
No money? You mean you don't get paid?
The acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force in our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
I have literally been counted down an entire letter grade in my works for not doing framing right. Even to the point when I sent a message to one of my professors just asking a question and I was on screen, I got told to adjust my headspace because I was talking to him and my headspace was wrong on a Zoom call. But fuck me if First Contact can't break those rules like it's going out of business. Anyway, let's go ahead and break down Picard's economy speech for a minute. The captain discusses how money doesn't exist in the 24th century. Interestingly, this entire dialogue is a bit confusing. At first, Picard seems to indicate that the entirety of the Federation goes without money. However, later he points out that humanity has overcome the sum of its parts. This has caused quite a bit of debate among Trekkies. However, for me, I just don't find it wholly impactful. When I analyze a work, I subscribe to the common theory of death of the author, and I combine it with common sense. Death of the author is the concept that a work stands on its own, that no matter what the author says or does, the work is what it is. Unlike, other channels, I tend to try to have everything make sense, not fit a specific agenda. We do know that in the 23rd century that the Federation still had currency, and yeah, I know in one movie Kirk says that they don't, and yet in the other movies, as well as the entirety of the original series as a whole, they have actual currency. Star Trek does have continuity issues. One of the most controversial statements I've ever made, I know, but it's out there. Anyway, from what I can tell, it seems to be that the Federation did have an actual economy that went beyond quote-unquote Federation credits. That is, until the mid to late 24th century. Then, the core worlds of the Federation move to a system that doesn't rely on material wealth. However, the farther from the core you are, the more you begin to have to rely on trade. This would instigate the need for some kind of currency, and once you're fully out of the borders of the Federation, you're full on using some form of economy. I don't think that Picard was saying that only humans don't have currency. He starts the dialogue indicating that it is everyone on the ship, and again likely everyone in the Federation, that they don't use currency and are more than the sum of their parts. If he was only talking about the humans on that ship, then he was being extremely insulting to the other species that serve under him. Additionally, Lily is human, so the point of bringing up humanity specifically makes sense because she can relate to that. The truth is, we simply don't know nor understand the economic systems of the Trek universe. We only have a high-level understanding at best. We are also getting it from the captain of the flagship, who is often not actually at Earth or in border conflicts, so he may not know what he's talking about. He may just be giving some idealized version that he was taught in class.
Actually, we're rather like yourself and Dr. Cochrane.
This is a small part, but I absolutely love it. When Picard belies his thoughts on Cochrane and Lily, he thinks that they are as idealized as the 24th century person. If not that, he thinks they're close to it. That the creation of the first warp drive was done because of some noble endeavor. I imagine the schools of the 24th century praise Cochrane for what he did, but the image of him couldn't be further from the truth. Zephyr is a drunk, probable womanizer, definite sexist, and oh yeah, he likes to drink. And Lily, well, she likes wearing beiges and greens and is highly emotional. Wait a second, only Cochrane has major flaws. This is a straight up SJW movie! So when Picard talks about how both her and Cochrane are so like him, so like this idealized form, she laughs, because that's a ridiculous prospect. Picard, like all of us in the 21st century, has forgotten that people are people. They are a product of their time and can have great ideas and very bad ones. They can do great things and be bad people. It's not a zero-sum game. It's so well done, so well written, and so well acted that honestly most people just miss it. And all of it is packed into a 30-second clip. I love it.
All right. Come on.
Is there another way around?
I know what I'm doing.
Definitely not Swedish.
Told you. Norwegian what? I have to be honest, I'm not completely sure why they don't assimilate Picard. If you assume that they don't assimilate you unless you're a threat, well, Picard's a threat. If you cut off the head of the snake, you are doing a lot of damage. They know he has the ability to stop them. He's done it in the past, so why not just address that threat now? But anyway.
What the hell are you doing?
Agreed. They are ignoring you. If you want to set up some kind of trap, go into the holosuite, set it up, and then pick a fight. Why would you get their attention right now?
Perhaps something in Saturn.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, but we're closed. And you do understand we have a strict dress code, so if you boys don't leave right now,
This is a bit confusing, though I know why they ultimately do it. I'll tell you how I would rewrite the entire scene after this, but the Borg seeming to scan the person, the hologram, makes a little sense to me. Almost every one of these drones is from the Enterprise crew. They know what a holosuite is and almost instantly should realize what's occurring when they walk in.
Looking for Nicky the Nose.
The nose. He hasn't been here in months.
This is the wrong chapter. Computer, begin chapter 30.
If I said I
Try and look as if you're having a good time.
Giggity.
No, look at me. Try to act naturally.
True story here. They told Sir Patrick Stewart with that line to pretend like he was at a convention and was actually William Shatner. I think he nailed it.
Ruby, this is not a good time.
It's never the time for us, is it, Dix? Always some excuse, some case you're working on.
I have to talk to Nikki. I'll see you later.
Okay, but watch your caboose and dump the blonde.
Random blonde walks up and kisses him in a crowd of people, tells him to be careful and to get rid of his current woman, that woman looking at him with annoyance but letting it pass. He is just nailing that Shatner impression. You go, boy!
Well, look what the cat dragged in. What's shaking, Dix?
The usual, Nick. Martinis and skirts.
Well, that's sexist.
Excuse me.
Hey, I'm gonna take that personal in a second.
No offense.
Hey!
I think you got him. I don't get it. I thought you said this was all just a bunch of holograms. If it's holograms...
I disengaged the safety protocols. Without them, even a holographic bullet can kill.
What are you doing?
I'm looking for the neuroprocessor. Every Borg has one. It's like a memory chip. It will contain a record of all the instructions this Borg has been receiving from the collective.
Oh, my. Jean-Luc, it's one of your uniforms.
Yes, this was Ensign Lynch.
Tough luck, huh?
I gotta get to the bridge.
We'll address him going crazy in another breakdown, so I'm just going to keep it moving. I don't really mind the quote-unquote memory chip being in the stomach. There could be any number of reasons for its existence there. And again, we'll address the fact that Picard didn't care that this was one of his people at a later time. The main thing I want to address here is that a lot of people in the audience wonder why, if the bullets are working, they don't just continue to use them against the Borg. This honestly is one of the bigger mysteries. Originally, I always assumed that the different pieces of technology that they had on them, like the torso and such, was some kind of armor, that projectile weapons couldn't get through it. But that's quite clearly not the case. Now, if I had to guess or make a theory, I would probably say that this could be written off just like how we write off no armor for security after the original series. The fact is, there may generally not be a need for it. When you look at the history of Starfleet, armor could not protect against phasers and disruptors, and that was the mainstay of weaponry against those they would fight. It would be very rare to go up against someone that used bullets, so protecting against it wasn't very practical. As an example, and I know this is not nearly as black and white, and you may have some examples where I'm wrong, but overall, let's just look at the example overall. Today in the United States, if you're going to go up against someone who is wearing a bulletproof vest, and you're going to hit him where the vest is, an option to get past that armor is to use a knife or a bow and arrow. A lot of bulletproof vests are designed to stop bullets, not so much blades. Yes, it depends on the type of bulletproof vest, I get it. US military vests utilize ceramics or hard plastics, but when you're looking at your standard civilian or police vests, they generally don't. Bulletproof vests overall are designed to stop bullets, not knives and not arrows. So it's possible that the cultures of the 24th century have tactics to fight energy weapons, not kinetic ones. Though we know that Starfleet ultimately does learn its lesson in the future. It's also possible that replicators are shut down due to the computer being locked out. Now, why the replicators won't work but the holosuites will, I have no idea. But there are a few other things I want to address. First, an interesting behind the scenes here is that they initially wanted to have the entire holosuite scene in black and white. That it would have more a film noir style that fits with the big goodbye. That could have been interesting, but test audience seemed a bit confused by it, and the executive stated that it was too quote-unquote experimental for the big screen. I think we all know that YouTube critics would have torn it apart, and this is why we can't have nice things. But honestly, as I've stated, the scene just makes no sense. If you wanted to kill them to get the memory chip, then why not just create lasers as soon as they walk in, or have a platoon of World War II or World War III vets ready to slice them into nothing? Why not have something like Indiana Jones where they are grabbed by a rope and hung upside down? Honestly, using a holodeck and having it work in this specific movie just breaks any real tension given all the things you could do with a holodeck. But if I had to use the holodeck, here's how I'd rewrite it. I don't mind the scene overall, but I would add a ticking time bomb to the event. If we were going to have him in The Big Goodbye and try to do a period piece inside of a movie it has no right to be in, then I'd have the computer lock out, prevent the safeties from being released. Picard would find his way to the guns and then have to open up some kind of contraption that lets him get to the actual computer so that he can override the safeties. All this happening while the Borg are getting closer and closer to them, just going through people. I'd have him scramble to get the safeties unlocked, and once it finally beeps, he'd turn around and just shoot them to hell and back. He then would rush to attack him. This would fit in because we'd see him getting hyped and have all this adrenaline, at which point he would be stopped by Lily. That's at least how I would fix it and keep most of what they had in there. I know that I've taken umbrage with Red Letter Media from time to time, but I do agree with one thing that they stated in a review of another Star Trek movie. These actors and these writers are used to more cerebral endeavors, and now they're writing action. It's just not their strong suit, and that's why scenes like this just don't make a lot of sense to me. But these are all my opinions. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.